right, I'm back. Session on Metaverse. I'm going to have my panel come up and join me. Always cherish the journey in real life. That is incredibly good advice. But what about our journey into the Metaverse? Is it for real or just way too much hype? Because one company decided to rename itself. And of course, that's Meta, doubling down on the Metaverse and the future. So we are here to sort it out. I'm going to bring my panel up on stage. Come on down, guys. We're going to start with Nikhil, who I've decided to make my co-host. Come on up, Nikhil Kamath. He is, of course, wears many hats, but Zerodha is one of them. We'll bring the rest of you up on stage as well. Come on down. We have got from 5ire, absolutely delighted to see you, Dr. Prateek. Thanks very much for coming. We've got at the end Nikita, Sachdev from Luna Media, and of course Jaynti, Kanani from Polygon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Right. So let's kick off. We've got 23 minutes to sort out the Metaverse. Loads of time. First of all, Nikhil, thanks for joining us. Talking about the Metaverse, I'm always reminded by the futurologist Roy Amara, who said that we tend to overestimate the value of a technology in the short run, but underestimate it in the effect in the long run. I wonder if that sounds like something familiar to you. Do you think that applies to the Metaverse?
Well, honestly, Edie, I do not know for sure. Like you, I would like to learn from them. I would say the Metaverse is probably easier to understand for me. Mm-hmm. I find Web3 a bit more complicated in terms of how does one understand the use cases of it, mm-hmm. and what will be the first point of adoption going forward.
Okay, so we're laying out some questions for you guys. What about you? Let's see, Prateek, what do you think? Do you think that we are underestimating the effect of it in the long term, but maybe overestimating where it should be already?
Yeah, I'll agree with most of what you said there, because there is definitely this bubble that's been created where we are like, yeah, the Metaverse is here and it's there right now, and everything's about the Metaverse. But having said that, I was just talking to you before. I was reading an article from, I think, New York Times in 1995, and they were saying that there's a new fad around in the world. It's called the internet.
Right.
And that's pretty much where we are, I think, with Metaverse. Similarly with the cloud, I mean, 10, 15 years ago when we started talking about the cloud, everyone looked up in the air, in the sky, like, what is the cloud? But now we have so many applications. We have in data analytics, the internet speeds are faster, the storage is cheaper and easier. So now we've basically come to a point where it's there in pretty much every single big industry. I think that's what it is. Right now, once the bubble settles down and the entire space comes of age, it is here to stay, because it's once we understand the definition of what it is, we'll all similarly realize, and we're all like millennials or more. I don't see any 12-year-olds here, because sometimes when there's 12 years old in the room, I don't have to explain them if Metaverse is going to be there or not, because they're already living in the Metaverse pretty much.
All right, and tell us what you're doing, what 5ire is doing, and particularly relating to sustainability.
Thank you. Well, we are a layer 1 blockchain, and we are pretty much the world's first sustainable consensus. Mm-hmm. Consensus is what runs the blockchain. I think Jaynti will explain that much better than me. And we have built a mathematical model to incentivize sustainability based on ESG and SDG goals. So in very simple terms, there's validators in our blockchain network. Mm-hmm. And in our network, if there's 2 validators, it's just like you and me, and you're using, for instance, hydropower, and I'm using carbon, then technically you end up making more money and earning more rewards. So that moves the entire world slowly but surely towards more sustainable practices for benefit, as we say it, instead of for profit, where you make money while you do good. Mm.
So, Jaynti, we're setting you up for a question here, but I was looking a moment ago at Polygon, and it's already here. The effect of what you're doing is already here. It's already being accepted and, in fact, used by a number of countries. I'm looking at Instagram launching NFTs. Yes. I'm looking at Stripe launching global payments. I'm looking at Adidas and Prada launching NFTs with Polygon. So give us a sense of how fast you think things are moving for you in this field?
Yeah, so mostly from for your first question, the innovation cycle always reduces one after another. For example, TV, if you take an example of internet or TV, like maybe a few years it took for TV to come from to your home.
Yeah.
Same example I will give, for example, Facebook users growth. Maybe they acquire like few millions of users in over the few years, but TikTok did it in 1 year, right? So same happen with every new technologies, like the innovation cycle always reduces when you go in the future. And same happen with NFT, for example, right? NFT took like maybe 3 years to reach to Instagram, Starbucks. Everyone is kind of creating this small kind of a metaverses in their applications on Polygon. I think what is happening is that everyone has their own definition of like, okay, what Web3 metaverse would look like, and they are translating their understanding into the product for themselves, and that's where like Polygon is basically helping them to bring them their NFTs, metaverse world on blockchain, right? And by the way, like if you don't know like what Polygon does is we make blockchain transaction faster. So for example, if you mint an NFTs or if you transfer NFTs on Ethereum blockchain or main blockchain, it maybe takes some time, like few minutes, and you have to spend like a lot of money on that. But if you use Polygon, it will be like few seconds or maybe 2-3 seconds, and it's much cheaper than other blockchains, right? So in general, like what kind of our definition of the whole Web3 is kind of it's basically just translating your digital world into the open network on the blockchain. And that's what we are kind of aiming to do that, yeah.
Fascinating. And you're based here in the UAE,
So
not
we are,
just for transport reasons.
So we are kind of a decentralized company, you would say. We don't have a kind of one headquarter any country. We started out of India, for example. We are founders were born and brought up in India. So we started out of there. But quickly, like our main clients are everywhere. For example, Instagram, Stripe, they are our customers. Like they are building their NFTs and everything. So, and we have like employees every corner of the world. We have US, South America as well, Canada, this side, Vietnam, everywhere. So we are kind of a decentralized company, but it's kind of few people are near to India, are based in Dubai. It's easy travel to India, easy travel to US, good food. So why not, yeah.
Nice weather. So let's move now to Nikita. First of all, tell us what you do.
Sure. So I run a company called Luna PR. We've been in the space since 2017, nothing to do with Luna Terra. We are a PR marketing and advisory focused on Web 3.0. We're quite big in the media, so we own Cointelegraph Middle East. Cointelegraph is a leading publication globally for crypto Web3 news. We've been producing a show on CNBC Arabia that I was hosting, focused on Web3 as well.
And tell us why you think the UAE's metaverse strategy is important. Why do they need one? Why is it important?
So I think the UAE and the Middle East, not even I think, it's a fact that they've been the fastest growing region for implementing Web3. So that just does not just include the metaverse. It includes blockchain, cryptocurrencies, digital assets, AI. It's basically the future of technology. Why it is important is because just like looking at the title of this panel, A Fool's Errand, it is like saying, was internet a fool's errand? Saying Web 3.0 is a fool's errand is comparing it to the internet being useless. It is the future, it is important, and I think the region recognizes that, and they've been very forthcoming in, they want to be pioneers and they want to set the stage, set an example. 50 years ago, this place was a desert, so that's something that they're used to. This region wants to be the first, the biggest, the fastest, and implementing the metaverse, implementing Web3 is one step ahead of the game. So the Metaverse Assembly was not, I think one of the important points that they discussed in the Metaverse Assembly was to start incorporating the Metaverse a little bit more, to start, for example, measuring aspects of the GDP in the Metaverse. I don't know how that's exactly going to work, but like I mentioned, they're going to set the stage. So I guess we'll see what the UAE does, and then probably other nations will follow suit.
That's interesting. So Nikhil, I'm going to bring you in here as my co-host for this panel. You've got some questions about the metaverse, about blockchain. What would you like to ask these guys?
Well, if I had to simplify everything, okay, in the little bit of research I've done about Web3, each time I ask people a question, they digress and talk about 5 different things, but they do not truly tell me what will be the first case of Web3 and how we get there in a very pragmatic manner. So let me ask each of you, like, maybe in 30 seconds, explain what is Web3 and what will be the first use for Web3 in your mind. Maybe you can start.
Sure. Web3 for me is just about ownership. So Web 1 was read. You could just read the information out there, the old classic internet. Web 2 was write, Facebooks of the world, social media, you could write your information, people can see it. Web 3 is own, which means that you will own most of your assets, data, everything, and that's where it ends. The first real application for me actually is the metaverse itself, because think of the metaverse as first of all, right now what we have is different universes.
Can I ask a question there? Let's say Web3 decentralizes data in a manner where the blockchain owns it and not a corporation. Doesn't it become simpler for people to scrape your personal data off this blockchain versus one particular corporation?
Not always, depends on the permissions that are set. So for instance, we're coming up with the concept where there's something called encrypted search algorithm, wherein the person who has the data will be able to see the data on the block, but everybody else would not be able to see it. So it's with you, it's on the blockchain, verifiable, but it's not with a corporation. So it's.
But if the data is only accessible to you, what is the point of the blockchain?
Because it's decentralized, it's not there with one certain authority. It's about ownership.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Maybe Jaynti?
Jaynti.
Yeah, so to your question, right, the problem is that everyone has the different answer, and it means that there is no definition of Web3. Everyone is kind of now translating their own definition to what Web3 would be, similar metaverse and similar maybe AI as well, because there is no, you can say, okay, AI has a definition, but how you use it or how you define kind of not get the end result is very different for everyone, right?
You see the dichotomy in that, right?
Yeah.
We cannot talk about Web3 and build it up to be this massive thing which will change the world, but say it means a different thing to each of you. Yeah. Because Web3 is not spirituality or
definitely.
It's a very definite thing.
So I'll come to your point, right? The Web3 for me, and maybe just come back to like Bitcoin, right? Simple Bitcoin definition where it says, okay, this is my payment system, okay, not owned by any government, not owned by anyone in the world, and still you can verify your payment, you can send a payment, you hold your keys, and that's it.
So
simple, right?
Are we all getting at Web3 is decentralization in one way or another?
So it could be like, maybe there is a one way to achieve trustlessness is a one way is decentralization, but the end goal is a trustlessness. I don't have to trust anyone to make my transfer in this world. For example, if I am sending you money, I don't want other people to verify for me. There should be some payment kind of the platform which does this automatically. I don't want anyone to verify or hold my payment or hold the whole trust in between. That's what kind of the whole Web3 came from, right? So I would believe like that would be the good definition for everyone. Now people have translated that payment system to art, digital art, metaverse, and DeFi, fintech, everything, right? But it actually at the end translates to, okay, whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm, for example, payment or loan or whatever on the payment system or non-payment system should be I shouldn't trust anyone to do that. And that's why I think roughly translate in my mind to Web3 or next internet thing. Yeah.
One more question leading up from this one. What do you think are the pros and the cons when you don't have an intermediary, or if you don't have a clearinghouse of sorts? Let's stick to the payment transaction. When you don't have someone vetting and guaranteeing your transaction, and you're maybe transacting on the blockchain, maybe it's peer-to-peer, what are the pros and what are the cons?
Yeah, so pros are obviously like, you have your own control over the things you can do. For example, you can make a transfer of USDC on blockchain on Sunday. You cannot do on banks, first of all. This is a simple pro I'm just talking about.
Maybe not get into one particular asset class, but transactions in general.
Yeah, transaction in general. I'm just giving examples so people can understand. Okay. Now, cons is if you send a transaction to wrong address, it's irreversible. Now you cannot get the, you cannot call the banks and, okay, I've made a mistake, just give me my money back, right? So that's a normal scenario problem for any normal people, right? And that's where I feel like, people will build something on top of that, which will be centralized, but in the end, they will use something similar on the decentralized manner, where you have some control, but the company cannot kind of ban your transactions or give away or move just money over the night from account to another account, right? So all those kind of things can be done, but I would say this is the pros and cons in a normal
I'd like to add something to that. Just because there isn't, Just because there isn't a person or an authority looking over a certain transaction doesn't mean that it's not looked over or verified. The blockchain, the consensus itself verifies everything, and I would actually strongly believe that that's a much better way than an office stamp verifying your transaction.
Nikita, what would you add? Any other pros or cons?
I mean, we're talking just about cryptocurrency here, right? I mean, but Web3 is so much more than cryptocurrency. But
so give us your definition of Web3.
I think Web3 is a world of decentralization and creativity, immersiveness.
So give us a good example.
For example, so to what Nikhil was saying, I think Web 3.0 will make the world better significantly. And I think that will mostly be through the implementation of blockchain technology. I think that through cryptocurrencies, people will have more freedom with their money. They will be able to own their own funds. And we're seeing that in a lot of emerging markets today, where people are struggling. In Lebanon, and banks are allowing withdrawals of no more than $400 a month. In Turkey and Venezuela, inflation rates are so high, people have completely lost their monetary values. That's one example. In the Middle East, a lot of women don't even hold rights to their own identities. When they get married, they have to give their passports to their families. Through blockchain, your identity is going to be you. It's going to be your scan. I mean, think about it. How backward is it today? We have cars that are self-driving themselves, but we're still using a paper booklet to get through the airport. Blockchain is going to change that. Our identities are going to be ourselves, and people are going to own rights to their own identities. Birth certificates. My dad couldn't get Singapore residency because he was born in a poor hospital somewhere in India that didn't exist anymore. So his birth certificate didn't exist, and then he couldn't get residency. You know, that's also backward to me. Blockchain is going to change all of that. Supply chain in China, half the rice that they're selling is plastic, right? Where does that get tampered? From the farmer all the way down to the store, where does rice get tampered with? Blockchain will be able to identify that. So blockchain is going to change every single industry today, and blockchain is part of Web3.
Okay, good argument. Nikhil, as somebody who I know you care very deeply about financial inclusion, how does that sit with you?
Well, it's one of those glass half full, half empty. I think it depends on where you're looking at the problem from. But let me ask you this, to what you were saying earlier. Let's take the most relevant example of decentralization, let's say Bitcoin. If a currency which is based on, say, proof of work, will never be able to facilitate transactions at a cost which is cheaper than traditional money transfers. Take UPI's example in India, for instance. What do you think is the use case for Bitcoin as such? being very specific about that currency? And why do you think any of what you guys spoke about Bitcoin will be able to resolve, considering how much it costs to transact on Bitcoins right now?
Yeah. So obviously, Bitcoin came in the picture in 2009 or 10. So world has kind of changed since then significantly, right? So currently, people just using Bitcoin for the value storage and everything, like similar to gold. But there are many other innovation came into picture. For example, zero knowledge proofs, right? Which basically
would you say, for the purpose of what we were talking about, like what she was saying or what he was saying, Bitcoin doesn't make sense from that standpoint?
Yeah.
Not Bitcoin in particular.
Now, like for example, talk about identity, right? She talked about identity. So how do we create the identity, right? So we have a solution where, for example, where you can say, okay, you are 18 plus age, but you don't want to reveal your actual passport or KYCs or anything, right? You can prove that without revealing anything else, right, on the blockchain. So that is possible right now, and I think that is kind of a use cases we evolve slowly in the future, and then come out of something out of there. Right.
I think it's like apples and oranges. Like Bitcoin has, the only association Bitcoin has with all of this is that it's built on the technology, it's built on blockchain. So Bitcoin, thankfully, just shed more light on blockchain, but it's two different things.
Can I make a counter argument to what you said? If a sovereign, a country, like you were saying, they can control money flow, they can control how much money you can take out from a bank. As long as nation states exist in the manner that they do today, even if you have Bitcoins and they control vendors in a way such that they do not accept Bitcoins, all of those use cases kind of don't work. And that is a risk with how sovereign nations are governed today. And under one government, if the government does not want a certain currency or a certain asset class to work, they're still in control in that sense of the.
They still work. They don't work as well, but they still work. Like you have decentralized exchanges. Like China banned cryptocurrencies a long time ago, but still, like some of the largest users of cryptocurrencies come out of China. There's VPNs. People have multiple IDs and passports. So even if they want to use a centralized exchange, they can. And if they don't want to use a centralized exchange, then use the DEX, a decentralized exchange. So there are still ways around it. And cryptocurrency is, like Bitcoin is, I wouldn't say like it's more so to make everyday transactions. I think the space is still new. So I don't think really that is the, I mean, of course it's a store of value, I would say.
Okay, so we're running out of time. I do want to offer you a last chance to have your word in. I'd love to hear one thought for a rule, a regulation, or an agreement that you'd like to see that would make Web 3.0 a more valuable, a more impactful place for the world.
Well, I think as Nikhil was saying, as you know, if governments stop people from transacting in a certain currency, and I think that's where a little bit of a disconnect is. I don't think that we as a space want to do that. I think governments should work with us and leverage the power of technology so this can sort of work together. So I would think that the Dubai model, the UAE model is something that people should look at. We've had an amazing time with the government helping us out, adopting more and more Web3 into the country. So that's a regulatory model that I will totally back.
Okay, one rule, regulation, Jaynti?
I think obviously we need a regulation in crypto industry. People are always talking about, as you can see in the crypto world. So, but you know, the thing is that if you want to hate something, you will find something bad out of that. And if you want to find want to like something, you will eventually find something good out of that. And I would say like government or every regulator should find something meaningful out of the crypto world or technology or something, and maybe try to regulate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Nikita?
I think I would like to see governments start opening up and understanding how to implement cryptocurrencies and digital assets a little bit more. Like India's had a love-hate relationship with crypto for a while, so I think it would be great to see a friendly government like we have here in the UAE. I feel like that would really drive a lot of mass adoption.
Okay. Thank you for being my co-host, Nikhil. We can take this show on the road. Next stop, Bengaluru, maybe. We're going to be back at 4. We're going to be looking at social media, asking, is it dead? Social media is dead. Long live social media. So see you back here at 4. And a big thanks to my panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.